So Steph Curry does 50. Did anyone go into that game thinking that the Warriors were not going to win? Because the Kings were favored by 1.5, which means that Vegas, 50% of the people thought they were going to win the game.
I thought that after that performance of the Kings in Game 6, there was a chance that this Warriors thing was coming to an end. Yeah. Because the Warriors have been really bad on the road this year, and that's not the championship performance you see on your home court in Game 6. And then Malik Monk kind of did a Dylan Brooks thing where he called them old. And you can't do that to a champion. And Steph, all the questions around Steph and his legacy, I think, were erased with his performance in the finals last year. I capitulated. We saw all we needed to see from him, and yet he still had more in his bag. That's the best Steph Curry performance I think I can remember, because he hasn't, for a player that's been so great up until the most recent NBA Finals he was in, he hasn't had these hugely memorable playoff performances.
He just had it.
He just sent he set a high watermark for what you do in a Game 7. It was phenomenal.
It's the greatest Game 7 ever. There is nobody to score that many points, to do that. What he did, going to a team that is energetic and young and has that crowd that's crazy, like the Beam, for him to go in there, shoot 38 times, and come out with 50 points in a W is one of the greatest things I've seen in the NBA.
Did it feel like that the Kings were a team like the Bulls before Jordan could beat the Pistons, or when you have to beat a team to get to the next level? I felt as though the Warriors were that team for the Kings, so the Kings could go out of this series and say, hey, great job, we're not failures, look at me, Giannis. And yet I left that game saying, you lost a Game 7 at home. That's a failure.
To a team that's not great on the road.
You had not great. They're terrible.
Yes.
And the fact is that the reason Curry got 50 is similar to the reason Butler got 56. There was no one else doing anything. Klay Thompson shooting 1 for 20 or 1 for 10 to start the game.
Klay was bad.
You have no choice but to score if you're Curry to keep yourself in the game in the first half.
Wiggins was bad too.
Yeah. It was real sequences where he looked like he was monstered, but Looney kept giving them second and third chance opportunities.
He was an offensive rebound machine.
I want to talk to some analytics people, because the approach to boxing out that Mike Brown just kept telling Sabonis to go with did not work whatsoever. Just go up and get the ball. Don't worry about boxing out. That was very clearly early on in this series not going to work against Looney, and it didn't matter. And they lived by the sword and they died by the sword. Every time Sabonis tried to traditionally box his man out, it did not matter whatsoever.
You're seeing a lot of examples in this playoffs in hockey and in basketball, the value of late season important games. I mean, maybe it's just a one-year outlier. Panthers had to fight for their playoff light, and then they're having success. The Heat did the same thing. The Warriors, the Lakers. I know there are a lot of teams with pedigrees, like Lakers and Warriors are odd to be that low seeded, but you are seeing these teams that played important games late in the season. This year in particular, it seems like that there's great value in playing important games late in the year.
The idea is that it keeps you sharp, and you feel like you're entering the playoffs having played this high level of sport because you've been playing high pressure basketball or hockey. However, in the Heat's case, they were terrible down the stretch.
Right, they lost the first playoff game.
They were really bad down the stretch, which makes their run and the Panthers' run all that more improbable. It's not even.
Well, the Panthers were not terrible down the stretch. The Panthers,
a week before the final stretch of games, we all thought it was over. They had the Stahl brothers controversy for Pride Night. They had blown a huge game against the Senators, and it seemed like it was over.
It was
Then Lion happened.
Yeah, their playoff probability was down in the 20s.
I mean,
and then they got hot.
With the Heat in the second play-in game, they were trailing to the Bulls with a couple of minutes ago. The Bulls!
They needed a huge performance down the stretch.
Yeah.
Seems like forever ago, doesn't it, though?
Yes.
So who cares, right? Can that be your best day? Can that be a top 5 day when they beat the Bulls to get into the playoffs?
I remember being upset that they beat the Bulls, because I was like, there's no shot that they're going to beat the Bucks.
Right.
How silly.
Do you think the NBA referees knew that the NBA wanted Curry to win last night? I'm just throwing it out there so you're all aware of how this works.
Well,
meetings happen before every game.
So, David, it's funny. I was thinking two things as that game unfolded. The NBA got exactly what it wants, right? It has Golden State. It has L.A. It has Boston. It has Philly. It has Miami.
It has New York.
It has New York. It has all the markets.
Their worst playoff series is Kevin Durant versus the 2-time reigning MVP.
Right. They want Denver out of there. Like the NBA wants Denver to go away. They would take Phoenix versus the Lakers. They would take Phoenix versus the Golden State Warriors.
Well, Durant against the Warriors would be a dream, but you want LeBron and the Lakers.
LeBron and Durant would be, I think.
I feel like after the Nuggets, the Heat are the next team they want out of there in terms of value.
There's no
for
one
the league.
marketable
I would agree.
on the Heat.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy is.
No, Jimmy's marketable.
I'm talking about nationwide.
He
They'd
had a-
rather
he
the
had
Knicks. It's not even close. The
He had a
NBA wants
bigger
the Knicks
ad
to win.
campaign. I think playoff Jimmy is something to be seen.
They want the Knicks. I'm sorry.
If
to say.
Adam
No,
Silver,
I'm not arguing that they.
they want the Knicks in the finals.
Yeah, but I'm saying that they
Yes.
can market Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's become marketable.
They would take a Knicks-Lakers final right now. That would be it. That would be the dream for them.
That's the dream of every sport.
Yes.
New York, LA.
Would the league rather have Philly or the Heat? Because I think they'd rather
Philly.
have Boston or the Knicks. I'm just saying, like, if we're ranking the Eastern Conference teams in terms of who the league would want least, is it Philly or the Heat?
You want the Heat
Right.
less
Because of
than you
Embiid?
want Philly.
Right.
I think
No,
the Heat
no,
and Denver
actually,
are the
because
two
of-
teams you don't want.
Because of demographics.
Right.
Because of the market size. Because of who's watching what. And you can find people to be interested in Harden, maybe do something going on with Embiid. There's just not a lot of interest outside. I hear that we talk about the Heat a lot. There's not a huge amount of nationwide interest in the Heat.
You're right. I watch. I'm watching the cable debate shows right now, and I had throughout Jimmy Butler's incredible first round run, and he's not leading off shows. Finally, he's up against an opponent in the Knicks. The only reason the Heat are being talked about early in these shows is because of the Knicks' involvement.
Knicks never won a playoff series after losing game 1 at home, 0-7.
What were you telling me about Steph Curry free throws in a Game 7?
He missed 2.
Right?
Well, no, he missed
a
his
row.
first ever Game 7 free throws, and that was crazy. I was like, whoa.
That's amazing.
And then the very next free throw, he missed. It was the wildest thing I saw
How
all
many
weekend.
game sets has he been in?
I think it was his 5th or 6th, the Game 7.
David, the other
That's
thing
crazy.
the other thing
That's
I was
more impressive than him getting 50 on the road in a game
It's
7
nuts.
is that he missed back-to-back free throws.
It's nuts. Yes. The other thing I was thinking is to an entire generation, 4 titles, 4 rings, okay? 2 MVPs, 1 final MVP, a 50-point performance on the road in a Game 7. To an entire generation, a younger generation, Steph Curry is their Michael Jordan. Steph Curry is the greatest player many people have ever seen in their entire lives. Like I always do it by I have to see you play. So I've seen Michael play. Therefore, I know Michael's better than Steph.
So
but
it's
to an
doing-
entire generation,
LeBron's playing in this era.
Right. Those people have all seen LeBron, though.
I know, but they might think Steph is better.
No, there's not one person in
The
the
last
world.
5 years, somebody who's just come into being a teenager the last 5 years, I mean, Steph has been pretty dominant.
And he's still doing it.
But so is LeBron.
4 titles.
LeBron is 38, getting 30
Oh, it's
and
crazy.
10.
I know, David,
So
but
I think that if you're not
there's a
talking-
generation that missed LeBron in its prime.
But
I mean,
LeBron
that's how
at
long,
38
that's how
is
long
still
he's
better
played.
than anyone on the Knicks or Heat. LeBron today is better than playoff Jimmy. I'm sorry, folks.
David, I'm just surprised that you're so impressed with a first-round performance because I thought first-round performances didn't mean shit.
For
I mean, it's cool
LeBron?
that it's Game 7 from Steph, but man, I'm really surprised that you'd be so impressed by this lame first-round performance. Who cares? They're champions.
It gives them a chance to defend their championship.
Okay.
Okay.
Love it. If that is the one contribution that I make during my time here, however long it lasts, it would be for people
It's
to
a crowd favorite,
understand
by the
I'm
way.
doing this at home now.
what you can
Yeah.
wear
Yeah.
and to say,
My wife says,
okay,
okay.
Yeah,
Like, if
you'd
that's
be
really what you wanna
shocked
say,
by
okay.
how
all
many
the time.
times okay is the perfect. Okay is actually the perfect response.
Gets
It
you out of
guarantees
everything.
no argument.
Yeah.
it works all the time.
How can you argue okay?
Okay.
Yep.